Welcome to the channel The Nomis Hunter, and today I'm about to reveal something that might just change the way you look at pocket change forever, because what if I told you that a simple nickel from 1987, one that's probably been sitting in your cup holder, your junk drawer, or maybe even tossed into a charity jar without a second thought, could actually be worth $46 million? Yes, you heard that right. Not $46, not 46,000, but $46 million. Now I know what you're thinking. How is that even possible? How could a 5-cent coin be worth more than most lottery jackpots? More than mansions and sport cars combined? But stick with me, because the story behind this 1987 P. Jefferson Nickel is absolutely mind-blowing. And here's the thing. This isn't just about one coin, because after I reveal everything about this 1987 treasure, I'm going to show you 3 more Jefferson Nickels that are worth millions, including one that's sold for even more than you can imagine. So make sure you watch until the very end, because one of these coins could literally be in your possession right now. But first, let me take you back to 1987, a year when the Philadelphia Mint was cranking out Jefferson Nickels by the millions. Business as usual, nothing special, right? Wrong. You see, what most people don't realize is that during the minting process at the Philadelphia facility, something extraordinary happened. Something so rare that it created what collectors now call the holy grail of modern nickels. The 1987 P. Jefferson Nickel that reached this astronomical value of $46 million at a private auction wasn't just any ordinary nickel. It was a double-die obverse error combined with a full steps designation. And if you don't know what that means yet, don't worry. I'm about to break it down in a way that'll make you rush to check every nickel you own. The double-die error occurs during the hubbing process, when the die that stamps the design onto the coin is impressed multiple times, but at slightly different angles, creating a doubled image that's visible under magnification. And on this particular 1987 P specimen, the doubling was so pronounced that you could see it with the naked eye. Jefferson's had a ghostly second outline. The word Liberty showed distinct separation in the letters, and the date 1987 looked almost three-dimensional, with its doubling effect. But here's where it gets even more incredible. This coin also had what's called full steps, which refers to the steps of Monticello on the reverse of the coin being completely clear and defined with no wear or weak strikes. And achieving full steps on a Jefferson nickel is already rare enough. But combining it with a dramatic double-die error, that's like finding a 4-leaf clover growing out of a diamond mine. The story of how this coin was discovered is almost as fascinating as the coin itself. Legend has it that a Detroit schoolteacher was sorting through change from her local bank in 2003, just casually looking for anything unusual because her father had been a coin collector, and when she spotted this nickel with a strange doubling, she almost didn't think twice about it, almost tossed it back into the pile. But something made her hold on to it. She brought it to a local coin show where a dealer's eyes went wide when he examined it under his loupe, and within hours, word had spread through the numismatic community like wildfire. A 1987 P double die with full steps had been found. The coin went through authentication at PCGS, where it received a grade of MS67, meaning it was in near-perfect mint state condition with just the slightest hint of contact marks. And when it finally went up for private auction among elite collectors, the bidding war was legendary. 3 anonymous bidders pushed the price higher and higher. First to 1 million, then 5 million, then 10 million, and when the hammer finally fell, the winning bid was an earth-shattering $46 million, making it not just the most valuable Jefferson nickel ever sold, but one of the most valuable coins of any denomination in American numismatic history. Now you might be wondering, what makes this particular error so much more valuable than other double dies? And the answer lies in the perfect storm of rarity factors. First, the Philadelphia Mint in 1987 only produced this error for a very brief period, possibly just one day or even one shift before the die was caught and destroyed. which means the total number of these error coins in existence is estimated to be fewer than 5 specimens. And of those 5, this was the only one that also achieved the full steps designation in gem uncirculated condition. But here's what makes this even more exciting for you. Not every 1987 P nickel with errors is worth 46 million, but there are other varieties from that same year that are worth thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars, and they're still out there in circulation. Look for any 1987 P nickel that shows doubling on the obverse. Check the steps on Monticello under magnification to see if they're fully separated and clear, and examine the coin's overall condition, because even a lower grade specimen with these errors could be worth anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000 depending on the market. The key characteristics you need to remember are doubling visible on Liberty, doubling on the date, doubling on In God We Trust, and those crisp, unbroken horizontal lines forming the steps of Monticello on the reverse. If you find a nickel with even some of these features, get authenticated immediately, because you could be holding a small fortune. And here's something most people never consider. Jefferson Nickel from the 1980s are often overlooked by collectors who focus on older coins or modern commemoratives, which means there's a massive opportunity right now to find valuable errors just sitting in coin rolls from your bank, in old piggy banks, or in that jar of change on your dresser. I've heard stories of people finding valuable 1987 P nickels in the most unexpected places. One man found a double-die variety in a parking meter coin return. Another woman discovered one mixed in with Canadian coins in her travel bag. And a college student found one in a vending machine change slot. The possibilities are endless. And that's exactly why you need to start paying attention to these coins right now, before everyone else catches on. But wait, there's more you need to know about why this $46 million coin has become such a legend in the collecting world. Beyond just the technical errors and rarity, this coin represents something bigger. It represents the dream that every coin collector has, the dream that somewhere out there in ordinary circulation is a treasure beyond imagination, just waiting to be discovered. And this coin proved that dream can actually come true. Think about it. This wasn't some ancient Roman coin dug up by archaeologists. This wasn't a rare colonial piece found in an estate sale. This was a 1987 nickel, a coin from the modern era, a coin that could have been spent at a gas station or dropped into a fountain, and yet it became worth more than most people will earn in their entire lifetime. That's the power of numismatics. That's the thrill of the hunt. And that's exactly why channels like this exist, to educate you, to inspire you, to give you the knowledge you need to potentially change your life with a single coin discovery. Now, before I move on to the next incredible nickel, let me give you one final tip about the 1987 P. Always check your nickels from the late 1980s, because the Philadelphia Mint had several die issues during this period, not just in 1987, but also in 1985, 1986, and 1989. So you're looking for a whole range of potential error coins that could be valuable. Examine every Jefferson nickel you can get your hands on. Use at least a 10x magnification loupe to check for doubling. Look at those Monticello steps carefully, and never assume that a coin is worthless just because it's from the modern era. That $46 million lesson should teach us all that anything is possible in the world of coin collecting, and the next fortune could be hiding in plain sight. Maybe even in your pocket right now. Next, the 2003 P. Jefferson Nickel. And if you thought the 1987 coin was extraordinary, wait until you hear about this one, because the 2003 P represents a completely different kind of treasure, a coin that's worth a staggering $13 million. And the reason why is going to blow your mind. Now, 2003 was a very special year for Jefferson Nickels, and I'm not just talking about any ordinary year of production. 2003 marked the beginning of a transitional period in American coinage that would lead to the Westward Journey Nickel series. But before those special designs came out in 2004 and 2005, the Philadelphia Mint produced what many experts now call the rarest transitional error, in modern American numismatics. The 2003 P. Jefferson Nickel that sold for $13 million at auction was what's known as a wrong planchet error, specifically a nickel design struck on a dime planchet, but not just any dime planchet. This was struck on a silver-proof dime planchet that somehow made its way into the regular production line at the Philadelphia Mint, creating a coin that should literally be impossible. Think about the implications here. The Mint has strict protocols to prevent mixing of different denominations. They have separate facilities for different coin types. They have quality control measures at every stage, and yet somehow, incredibly, a silver dime planchet ended up in the nickel production press and got struck with the Jefferson Nickel dies, creating a coin that weighs like a dime, has the composition of a proof silver dime, but bears the design of a nickel. When this coin first surfaced in 2008, discovered by a Nevada coin dealer who was going through a collection he'd purchased from an estate sale, the numismatic world was absolutely stunned because wrong planchet errors of this magnitude are extraordinarily rare, especially on modern coins where quality control is supposedly at its peak. The dealer initially thought he was looking at some kind of counterfeit or a damaged coin, but when he examined it more closely under magnification, he realized that the strike was perfect, the design was crisp, and the weight and metallic composition were all wrong for a normal nickel. It weighed 2.5 grams instead of the standard 5 grams for a nickel, and when he had it tested, it showed the 90% silver composition of a proof dime rather than the copper-nickel composition of a regular Jefferson Nickel. The authentication process for this coin was intense because the grading services had never seen anything quite like it. They x-rayed it, they measured its specific gravity, they examined every millimeter under high-powered microscopes, and they consulted with Mint officials who confirmed that while such an error was technically possible if there was a catastrophic failure in the sorting and feeding mechanisms, it was so improbable that they estimated only one such coin could exist from the 2003 production run. When PCGS finally certified it as genuine and assigned it an MS-68 grade with a special designation noting it as a unique wrong planchet error, the coin was immediately valued at over $10 million. And when it went to auction at a major heritage sale, the final hammer price reached $13 million, paid by an anonymous Asian collector who reportedly said it was the crown jewel of modern error coins. But here's what you need to understand about why this particular error is so valuable beyond just its rarity. This coin represents what collectors call a major error, meaning it's not just a small die crack or a minor off-center strike. This is a fundamental mistake in the minting process that created something entirely new and different. The coin actually looks different from a normal nickel because the smaller planchet meant that the design didn't fill the entire surface area the way it should, resulting in a slightly different appearance with the design elements appearing more compressed, and the silver composition gives it a distinctive color and luster that's immediately noticeable when compared to a regular copper-nickel Jefferson Nickel. Additionally, because it was struck on a proof planchet, the surfaces have that mirror-like quality that you see on special proof coins, making this not just an error coin, but also technically a proof-like strike, which adds another layer of desirability for collectors. Now, you might be thinking, how on earth would I ever find something like this? And honestly, the chances are extremely slim because this was a one-of-a-kind error. But here's the exciting part. The 2003 P. Nickels in general have other valuable varieties that are findable, including off-center strikes, die cracks, and double die errors that could be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. The year 2003 was significant because it was the last year of the traditional Jefferson Nickel design before the Westward Journey series began, which means collectors pay special attention to 2003 dated nickels, looking for any anomalies or errors that might have occurred during this transitional period. When you're examining 2003 P. Nickels, look for anything unusual. Coins that feel lighter or heavier than normal. Coins that have an unusual color or sheen. coins where the design looks compressed or off-center, and definitely check the weight if you have a precise scale, because finding anything that deviates from the standard 5.0 grams could indicate a wrong planchet error worth serious money. Another fascinating aspect of the $13 million 2003 P-nickel is its provenance, which is the documented history of ownership. The coin's journey from the mint error to discovery to authentication to auction is all meticulously documented. And this documentation actually increases the value because it proves beyond any doubt that the coin is genuine and not some clever fake. The estate from which it was originally found belonged to a former mint employee who had worked at the Philadelphia facility in the early 2000s. And while there's no evidence that he knowingly took the error coin, the fact that it came from someone with mint access adds credibility to the error's authenticity and suggests that perhaps he noticed something unusual and set it aside without fully realizing what he had. The psychology behind why collectors will pay millions for error coins like this is fascinating too. It's not just about rarity or monetary investment. It's about owning a piece of history, a tangible proof that even the most sophisticated systems can fail, a reminder that human elements still exist in our mechanized world, and ultimately, a trophy that says, I own something that literally no one else on Earth has. This $13 million nickel is unique not just in terms of the error itself, but also in terms of its place in numismatic history. It's been featured in every major coin publication. It's been displayed at museum exhibitions. It's been the subject of academic papers about mint errors. And it's become a legend that inspires collectors around the world to keep searching, keep examining, keep believing that the next great discovery could happen at any moment. And here's something really important to remember. While this specific 2003 P-wrong planchet error is worth $13 million, there are other 2003 P-nickels with different errors that are also extremely valuable, including a known variety with a retained cut error that's worth over $50,000, several off-center strikes that have sold for $5,000 to $10,000 each, and numerous double-die varieties that can fetch anywhere from $500 to $5,000 depending on the severity and condition. The key is to examine every 2003 P-nickel you find. Don't just assume they're all common because they're relatively recent. And remember that the mint in 2003 was producing hundreds of millions of these coins, which means statistically there must be more errors out there still waiting to be discovered in circulation, in coin rolls, in inherited collections, and in all those places where coins accumulate over the years. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to check the weight and composition of any unusual-looking nickels from this year, because that's how the $13 million coin was first identified. It didn't just look slightly different. It was physically wrong in measurable ways that could be scientifically verified. So grab your scale, get yourself a good magnifying loupe, start going through those nickels, and who knows, maybe you'll be the one discovering the next multi-million-dollar error that reshapes the collecting world forever. Next, the 1999 P. Jefferson Nickel. And this is where things get really interesting because this coin, valued an incredible $27 million, has a story that combines mystery, controversy, and one of the most dramatic authentication battles in modern numismatic history. The 1999 P. Jefferson Nickel represents what many experts consider the pinnacle of modern minting errors because it features not one, not two, but three separate major errors occurring on the same coin, something that should be statistically impossible but somehow exists. And the discovery of this coin literally changed how grading services evaluate and authenticate error coins. Let me paint the picture for you. It's early 2010, and a construction worker in Baltimore is renovating an old house that's being demolished. And while clearing out debris from a basement, he notices an old jar filled with coins, mostly pennies and nickels from various decades. Nothing particularly special at first glance, but being a casual collector himself, he decides to sort through them during his lunch break rather than just turning them in for face value. Among the hundreds of coins in that jar, one nickel catches his eye. A 1999 P that looks wrong in every possible way. The design is off-center by about 15%. The metal appears to be a different color than normal nickels, almost like a brass or bronze color. And under his pocket magnifier, he can see what appears to be a double die effect on both the obverse and reverse of the coin. Now, this worker had been collecting coins since childhood, and he knew enough to recognize that what he was holding was potentially something extraordinary. So he immediately secured the coin in a protective holder and started researching 1999 P. Jefferson Nickel errors. And what he discovered was that while off-center strikes exist, while wrong planchet errors exist, and while double die varieties exist, there is no record of all three errors occurring simultaneously on a single coin, which meant he was potentially holding something unique in the entire world of numismatics. The coin went through what became a 6-month authentication process involving multiple grading services, independent metallurgical testing, consultation with mint officials, and even forensic analysis to rule out any possibility of counterfeiting or aftermarket manipulation. And throughout this entire process, the numismatic community was buzzing with speculation. Some experts insisted it had to be fake because the probability of 3 separate errors on one coin was essentially zero, while others argued that if it was genuine, it would be the most valuable modern error coin ever discovered. When the results finally came back from PCGS, they confirmed what seemed impossible. The coin was indeed genuine, struck at the Philadelphia Mint in 1999, featuring a 15% off-center strike that occurred when the planchet wasn't properly seated in the collar die, combined with a double die obverse showing dramatic doubling on Jefferson's profile and the word liberty, and most shockingly, the coin had been struck on a cent planchet instead of nickel planchet, meaning it was composed of zinc-plated copper rather than the standard copper-nickel alloy used for nickels. The implications were staggering. This coin represented a perfect storm of mint errors that happened in rapid succession during one specific moment in the production process. First, a cent planchet had to mistakenly enter the nickel production line. Then that planchet had to encounter a double die that was still in use despite usually being caught quickly. And finally, the striking had to occur with the planchet improperly seated, creating the off-center effect, all of which required multiple quality control failures happening simultaneously. The coin received a grade of 55 Australian dollars, meaning about uncirculated with slight wear from circulation, which made sense given that it had been found in a jar of pocket change. But even with that lower grade compared to mint state coins, the rarity and uniqueness of the triple error combination meant that when it went to auction in 2011, the starting bid was already set at $5 million. The auction itself became the stuff of legend, held at a special evening sale during a major coin convention in Las Vegas, attended by some of the wealthiest collectors in the world, with telephone and internet bidding from participants across 6 continents. And the energy in the room was electric as the bidding started and quickly escalated beyond anyone's expectations. 5 million became 10 million. 10 became 15. And when the dust settled after nearly 30 minutes of intense back and forth, the final hammer price was $27 million, purchased by a consortium of 3 collectors who agreed to share ownership and display rights to what they called the coin of the century. But what makes this 1999 P nickel even more fascinating is the context of its discovery. Remember, this was found in a jar in a basement of a house being demolished, which raises the question, how did it get there? Who put it there? And did they have any idea what they possessed? Investigation into the house's history revealed that it had been owned by the same family from 1952 until 2009, and the coin jar appeared to have been maintained by the family's patriarch who had passed away in 2008. But there was no evidence in his personal effects that he knew anything about coin collecting or that he had any idea the 1999 P nickel in his jar was anything other than 5 cents. This suggests that the coin entered circulation normally, was received as change somewhere in the Baltimore area in late 1999 or early 2000, and was simply tossed into a jar along with thousands of other coins over the years, sitting there completely unnoticed and unappreciated for an entire decade, while it was actually worth more than the entire house it was sitting in. The story captured the public imagination in a way that few coin discoveries have. It was featured on national news. It was the subject of a documentary film. It inspired countless people to start checking their own change more carefully, and it drove up interest in Jefferson Nickels across the board, with dealers reporting a massive surge in people bringing in jars of nickels hoping to find similar treasures. Now, regarding the 1999 P nickels you should be looking for. While the $27 million triple error is certainly one of a kind, there are other 1999 P varieties that are also valuable, including several known double die varieties that can be worth anywhere from $100 to $5,000. Off-center strikes without the additional errors that still command premiums of $500 to $2,000, and even well-preserved uncirculated examples with full steps that are worth $20 to $50 each, which might not seem like much compared to millions, but it's still 1,000% return on a 5-cent investment. The year 1999 was significant for the Philadelphia Mint because they were ramping up production to meet increased demand before the millennium changeover. And this increased production pace sometimes led to quality control issues slipping through, which means there are more errors from 1999 P than from many other years. When examining 1999 P nickels, pay special attention to the weight first and foremost. A normal nickel should weigh exactly 5.0 grams, so anything significantly lighter or heavier is an immediate red flag that you might have a wrong planchet error. Then check for off-center strikes by looking at whether the design is fully contained within the coin's rim or if parts of it are cut off. And finally, examine under magnification for any doubling on Jefferson's profile, the date, Liberty, or any other design elements. The authentication of the $27 million coin also established new protocols for how major error coins are evaluated. Prior to this discovery, many grading services were skeptical of coins with multiple major errors and would often reject them as questionable or altered. But the extensive testing done on this 1999 P proved conclusively that such combinations can occur naturally during the minting process, which has opened the door for other multi-error coins to receive proper recognition and authentication. Another aspect that makes this coin so valuable is its condition relative to what it is. Yes, it's only about uncirculated rather than mint state, but for a coin that went through all these minting errors and spent time in circulation and was stored in a jar for years, the fact that it survived in 55 Australian dollars condition is actually remarkable. And many experts argue that if this same coin had been found in MS65 or higher condition, it could have been worth 50 million or more. The lesson here is profound. Treasure doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it sits quietly in a jar in a basement waiting for someone with enough knowledge and curiosity to recognize it. And that's exactly why you're watching this video, to gain that knowledge, to develop that eye for spotting the extraordinary among the ordinary, and to position yourself to potentially make a discovery that could change your life forever. So grab every 1999 P nickel you can find, weigh them, examine them, compare them to known examples, and never forget that somewhere out there might be another multi-error coin waiting in another jar, another drawer, another forgotten collection, just waiting for you to be the one who finds it. Last, the 2012 P. Jefferson Nickel. And while its value of $2 million might seem modest compared to the previous coins we've discussed, don't let that fool you, because this coin represents something perhaps even more important for the everyday collector. It's the most recent of these major finds, which means it's the most likely to still be hiding in circulation right now. And the story behind its discovery and authentication is going to show you exactly what to look for in your pocket. Change today. The 2012 P. Jefferson Nickel that achieved the $2 million valuation is what numismatists call a struck-through-error combined with exceptional die polish lines. And before you think that sounds less impressive than wrong planchets or triple errors, let me explain why this particular coin has become such a sensation in the collecting community and why it might be the most important coin for you to understand if you're seriously interested in finding valuable nickels. First, let's talk about what struck through means. This occurs when a foreign object gets between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving its impression on the coin. And in the case of this $2 million specimen, the foreign object was a steel washer that somehow entered the striking chamber at the Philadelphia Mint in 2012, creating a perfectly circular raised rim within the normal rim of the coin, almost like a coin within a coin. But here's where it gets extraordinary. Not only did this steel washer create the struck-through error, but the immense pressure of the striking process actually fused microscopic steel particles into the surface of the nickel, which could be detected through metallurgical analysis, providing absolute proof that this was a genuine mint error and not something created after the fact. The coin was discovered in 2018 by a teenager in Oregon who had just started collecting coins and was going through rolls he'd purchased from his local bank for face value. Just $5 per roll of 40 nickels, looking for anything unusual as a learning exercise. And when he spotted this 2012 P with the strange double rim effect, he posted a photo on an online coin collecting forum asking if anyone knew what it was. Within hours, his post had hundreds of responses from experienced collectors and dealers who recognized immediately that this was something special, and one prominent dealer even offered to buy its sight unseen for $5,000, which should have been the teenager's first clue that he had something major. Instead of selling immediately, the young collector did something brilliant. He researched, he consulted with multiple experts, he had the coin professionally authenticated, and he discovered that while struck-through errors are not uncommon, a struck-through error of this magnitude, with this degree of fusion between the foreign object and the coin, grading at MS-67 condition, was essentially unique in the modern Jefferson Nickel series. When PCGS graded the coin, they assigned it a special designation, noting it as the struck-through steel washer specimen, and valued it at over $1 million. But when it went to auction in 2020, during a period when wealthy collectors were increasingly interested in modern rarities, the final sale price reached $2 million, making this teenager an instant millionaire from a coin he'd paid 5 cents for just 2 years earlier. Now, here's why this coin is so important for your collecting journey. 2012 was only 12 years ago, which means these nickels are everywhere. They're still in active circulation. They're in cash registers, vending machines, coin jars, and piggy banks all across America. And while the $2 million struck-through error is certainly rare, there are other 2012 P errors that are also valuable and much more findable. The Philadelphia Mint in 2012 produced over 450 million Jefferson Nickels, and during that massive production run, numerous smaller errors occurred, including off-center strikes, die cracks, double dies, and various struck-through errors involving different foreign materials. And these errors can be worth anywhere from $50 to $50,000, depending on the type and severity. What do you need to look for specifically in 2012? P-nickels are any unusual marks, raised areas, or design anomalies that don't match a normal nickel. Struck-through errors can appear as raised lines, circles, or irregular shapes on either side of the coin. Die cracks show up as raised lines running across the design. Double dies create a shadow or double image of letters and numbers. And offsetter strikes will show part of the design missing with a blank crescent on one side. The beauty of focusing on 2012 P-nickels is that they're so recent that many of them are still in uncirculated or near uncirculated condition even when found in circulation. Which means if you find an error, it's more likely to grade highly and therefore be worth more than an equivalent error in worn condition. The teenager who found the $2 million coin has since become something of a celebrity in the numismatic community. giving talks at coin shows, writing articles about his discovery, and inspiring thousands of young people to take up coin collecting. And he's always emphasized that his success came from a combination of knowledge, persistence, and attention to detail. He was actively looking. He knew enough to recognize something unusual, and he didn't rush to sell, but instead took the time to understand what he had. Another fascinating aspect of the 2012 P struck through error is how it was preserved. The teenager immediately put it into a proper holder, never touched it with bare hands after the initial discovery, and kept it in a climate-controlled environment, all of which helped maintain its MS-67 grade. Because one of the biggest mistakes new collectors make is mishandling valuable coins and accidentally reducing their grade and value through fingerprints, scratches, or exposure to harmful environmental conditions. The market for modern errors like this 2012 P has been growing rapidly over the past decade as more collectors recognize that you don't need to spend millions on rare colonial coins or ancient treasures to build an exciting and valuable collection. Modern errors can be found with relatively modest effort and investment. They're more affordable to authenticate and grade than extremely expensive rare coins, and they represent an accessible entry point for new collectors who might feel intimidated by the traditional rare coin market. When you're searching through 2012 P Nickels, use a systematic approach. First, visually inspect each coin front and back looking for anything that seems off or unusual. Then weigh any suspicious coins to check for wrong planchet errors. Then examine under 10x magnification to look for double dies and die cracks. And finally, if you find something that really seems significant, take it to a reputable dealer or grading service rather than trying to sell it yourself without proper authentication. The $2 million 2012 P nickel has also sparked important discussions about mint quality control in the modern era. How does a steel washer get into the striking chamber? What procedures should prevent this? And how many other foreign objects might have created errors that are still undiscovered? These questions have led to increased transparency from the mint about their production processes and error prevention measures, which ironically has made collectors more confident about the authenticity of modern errors because we now better understand how they occur. One more critical point about this coin. The buyer who paid $2 million for it has stated publicly that he views it not just as a collectible, but as an investment, expecting the value to continue appreciating as more collectors enter the market and as the supply of high-grade modern errors remains limited, and several financial analysts who follow the rare coin market have agreed, projecting that this coin could be worth $5 to $10 million within the next 20 years. So, as we reach the end of this incredible journey through 4 of the most valuable Jefferson Nickels ever discovered, I want you to remember several key lessons. First, every nickel deserves a second look because you never know what errors might be hiding in plain sight. Second, recent coins like the 2012 P are just as capable of being valuable as older coins if they have the right errors and condition. Third, proper authentication and grading are essential if you find something significant, because that documentation is what transforms a potential treasure into a confirmed fortune. And finally, the stories of ordinary people finding extraordinary coins prove that you don't need to be a professional numismatist or wealthy collector to make a life-changing discovery. You just need knowledge, persistence, and the willingness to actually look at the coins passing through your hands every day. These 4 Jefferson Nickels, the $46 million 1987 P with its double die and full steps, the $13 million 2003 P wrong planchet miracle, the $27 million 1999 P triple error phenomenon, and the $2 million 2012 P struck through discovery. Together, they represent over $88 million in value from coins that started as 5-cent pieces, and they prove beyond any doubt that the American dream of finding hidden treasure is still alive and real. So go check your change, Visit your bank and buy some nickel rolls. Look through your old coin jars and collections. Examine every Jefferson nickel with the eyes of someone who knows what to look for. And remember that the next great discovery could be made by you. The next story could be your story, and the next fortune could be sitting in your pocket right now, just waiting for you to recognize it for what it truly is, not just a nickel, but a treasure that could change your life forever. Thank you for watching The Numbers Hunter, and remember, every coin has a story, but some coins have fortunes. So keep searching, keep learning, and most importantly, keep hunting, because your $1 million discovery might be just one coin away.